Zach Wilson's surgery went well, and week one might be in play, but we're going to talk about when you could probably really expect Zach Wilson to come back. Hey, what's going on? Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today we'll be talking about Zach Wilson's return. Before we get started, you know the drill. Follow on socials wherever you want at Matt O'Leary NY. You could also check out the Just Jets podcast. New episodes are coming out every Monday for now, and then they switch to Wednesday for the midseason, and then you could check out Patreon for bonus New York Jets content as well. Okay, so all things came up New York Jets and Zach Wilson yesterday when we found out that his surgery to repair his torn meniscus went very well. The time frame for his recovery is still that 2 to 4 weeks. It could be up to 6. I saw in some places where they said 2 to 6, 2 to 4. But, you know, looking at when the Jets season starts, which is now about 3 weeks away, it feels like it would be a little bit tough for him to come back and play week one in the home opener against the Baltimore Ravens. That's what I'm rooting for. I would love to be there at the home opener, getting pumped up, hanging out in the hangar with the Jet Lounge, and Zach Wilson runs out of the tunnel and the fans are going nuts. But is that likely, and is that smart? Because I don't think you want to be in a position where you are rushing Zach Wilson back too early when he's not ready. As of today, the home opener is 25 days away, so just over 3 weeks, just under 4 weeks of recovery. There's a chance that, honestly, that the meniscus heals before the bone bruise goes away. I don't think it's going to be a scenario where it's super likely that you're expecting Zach Wilson to play in week one. To me, it's going to be Joe Flacco playing in week one against his former team, the Baltimore Ravens. So you get a little bit of a revenge storyline, perhaps, which I would love that. Could you imagine if he pulls off an upset win and then you get the storylines of, oh, did the Ravens make a mistake and move on from Joe Flacco too early and go to Lamar Jackson? Well, that was a mistake. That would be crazy, but you never know. The internet's a weird place. Someone's going to write that story, which would be as a Jet fan, it would be fun to see. But ultimately, I think you're probably more likely to see Zach Wilson in week 2 or week 3. That would be my guess when he comes back and plays. I've seen some people say week 5 against the Miami Dolphins. I don't see a scenario in which he's out that long. He'd have to have something go wrong with the recovery for him to be out all the way until week 5. I think he's back week 2 or week 3. Now, again, what does it mean for him to be healthy? In my opinion, that means he's medically cleared and gets practice time. Let's use the opener as an example, which is September 11th. If he is cleared on Thursday of that week and then has a 2 or 3 day turnaround before he is on the field and doesn't get a full week of practice, then I'm probably holding him out and say, all right, we're going to do week 2 on the road. That's when you're going to come back. You're going to have a full week of practice to get up to speed, because I don't think it's fair on him to be like, okay, yeah, you missed a month. All right, 2 days, you get a walkthrough, you get some film study, and you're right out there. That's a recipe for disaster. So my guess right now, I'm at week 2 would be my guess. I've seen some people say that, oh, well, maybe you hold him off until week 3 then at that point, and then you have him his first game be at home. That I don't really care about. It doesn't matter to me if he returns at home or on the road. I think, and this is kind of where I want to close out this video on this segment of the discussion, whenever he's healthy, he has to play. You have to know what you have from Zach Wilson this year. I've seen people say, well, if the Jets start 2-0, like let's say there's an upset win in against Baltimore, and then they go on the road and beat Cleveland, you have to continue to ride Joe Flacco. No, you don't. Actually, you don't have to, because Joe's job as the backup quarterback is to come in and play well when need be, which is exactly what he would be doing if they went to 2-0. But you have to, the most important thing for this year in 2022 is knowing what you have at the quarterback position. If you have 15 Zach Wilson starts, because let's say he misses 2 games, you're going to have a pretty damn good idea what Zach Wilson is by the end of the year. one way or the other. But let's say you hold out this hope of, oh, you start 2-0. Maybe this team could be a playoff spot. And then you eventually sputter, and now you're sitting towards the end of the year, and Zach Wilson maybe starts 5 games because you tried to ride out the Joe Flacco thing. Then what are we doing? Then you going into year 3 with still no idea what your quarterback situation is. Think of it like this. Here's a perfect example of how a team that we don't particularly like as Jet fans, but how they got it right. In the New York Giants in 2004, they have Eli Manning, right? He was the first overall pick. They did the swap, the Phillip Rivers, you know the whole drill. They have Eli Manning, but they also have Kurt Warner on the roster. Kurt Warner starts, and the Giants get off to a 5-4 start. So they have an outside chance to be a playoff team, but they made the switch to Eli Manning because they knew that Kurt Warner wasn't a long-term answer, that a playoff spot was probably unlikely. And guess what? Eli came in and he struggled as a rookie. They didn't make the playoffs. I think he won 1 game down the rest of the way. But you gotta know what Zach is. You can't go into 2023 and have Zach Wilson still be a question mark and say, oh, well, we rode out Joe Flacco to 8 wins. What does that do for you? It doesn't do anything. So you're just wasting time. That's what it would be. It would be a waste of time if you are continuing to run out Joe Flacco because there's no future here with him. And don't make the Vinny Testaverde comparison. Don't do it. Because one, Vinny was a little bit younger than what Joe Flacco is right now when he came in 98. And yes, Vinny wasn't supposed to start, but Vinny at least had a little bit more recent success. He was a Pro Bowler in 96. So 2 years before he came to the New York Jets, he was a Pro Bowler. That's a little bit different than Joe Flacco now, who's been a backup since 2020. I mean, he started a handful of games for Denver in 2019, started a handful of games for the Ravens in 2018. And let's face it, hasn't played at a high level where it's like, okay, yeah, you could live with him as your starter. In 8 years, if not longer, like, again, it's not the same situation. It's just not. You say, Joe, thank you very much for coming in, holding down the fort. The Jets are off to a 2-0 start. Fantastic, great. Zach Wilson, here you go. Let's see, let's ride it out, and hopefully he comes in and the Jets, win a bunch of games and they're in the playoffs. But would it be? I'll give you 2 scenarios. Would you rather have Joe Flacco as your quarterback, play the entire year? They go 9-8, and it's like, okay, yeah, you had a winning record. Didn't make the playoffs because the AFC is really good, and I don't really know what's happening with Zach Wilson. Or maybe the Jets win 7 games with Zach Wilson, and he looks like a stud. And you're like, okay, well, they didn't make the playoffs, but Zach Wilson's the guy. Or if he comes in and stinks, then at least okay, now you have a top pick, and you got to invest in quarterback now. They're not going to continue to ride Flacco. They have too much investing on this guy. He was a 2nd overall pick. Joe Douglas, for better or for worse, is attached to Zach Wilson. That was his guy. He moved on from Sam Darnold after 2020, rightfully so, because they needed to. It wasn't gonna work out, and they chose Zach Wilson. So you better figure out if Zach Wilson's the guy or not. You cannot continue to kick this can down the road and go, I don't know. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. By the way, if you didn't see the video yesterday, I'm good with Joe. I think he can come in and start a game or 2 and be fine. You don't have to trade for Jimmy G. You're not going to start Mike White. They really like Joe Flacco. And yeah, sound off in the comments. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you're new. Give the video a thumbs up. I'll talk to you next time.